Hey there, fellow curious minds. Welcome back to the Curio Flow Show. We're always digging through the latest tech news, unearthing the truly fascinating stuff. And today, we're tackling something that's been creating a real buzz online. A lot of you have been curious about this one. OpenAI's brand new Swarm framework. I know what you're thinking, another AI framework. But trust me, Swarm could be a game changer. Like, seriously change how we interact with the internet, maybe even how we work. At least that's the vibe I'm getting from all the articles and research you sent my way. OpenAI seems to be going for something pretty revolutionary here. So picture this. A team of AI agents, each a pro at their specific task, all working together seamlessly. That's OpenAI Swarm in a nutshell. Pretty neat, huh?
It's a really intriguing approach, for sure. What's fascinating to me is how Swarm makes managing these multi-agent AI systems so much simpler. It means developers can build complex AI applications without needing to grapple with a massive, super complicated framework.
So it's like having this dream team of AI specialists ready to go whenever you need them. But how does this teamwork actually happen? How do they know what to do and when to do it?
Well, Swarm has these two key elements: routines and handoffs. Routines, you can think of them like individual instruction manuals for each AI agent, step-by-step guides through their specific tasks.
Got it. So each agent has its own playbook.
Yeah.
But how do they coordinate? How do they know when it's time to pass things off to the next agent on the team? That's where the handoffs come in, right?
Precisely. Handoffs enable that smooth collaboration between all these specialized agents. It's kind of like a relay race. Each runner expertly passes the baton to the next one.
Okay, I'm getting the picture. Now, to make it even clearer, the source material mentioned an example using an airline chatbot, right? Can you walk us through how that would work?
Sure. Imagine you're chatting with an airline's chatbot. You need to change your flight or cancel it, maybe report lost luggage. Instead of one general chatbot trying to do it all, Swarm could deploy specialized agents for each of those tasks. The initial chatbot would be like a triage nurse, figuring out what you need and then seamlessly handing you off to the right expert agent within the swarm.
Ah, so no more of those frustrating back and forths with a chatbot that's clearly out of its depth. You get straight to the AI agent who's a total pro at solving your specific problem. That sounds way more efficient and way less stressful for everyone involved. One thing that really caught my eye, Swarm is open source. That's not something we usually see from OpenAI, is it?
Yeah, it's definitely a different approach for them. By making Swarm open source, they're letting developers not only use the framework, but really understand it. They can customize every single aspect of it. It's a pretty big move in terms of transparency and collaboration, wouldn't you say?
It's almost like OpenAI saying, here's the recipe, go ahead, experiment, make it your own. It's a whole different world compared to their Assistance API, right? That one feels more like a black box designed for those back and forth chat applications.
Exactly. Swarm, though, it lets developers create more independent and sophisticated AI agents. Agents that can handle all sorts of tasks, not just conversations.
And they've managed to do all of this in a framework that's, well, surprisingly compact and easy to grasp, especially when you compare it to those giant frameworks out there. The ones like LangChain or AutoGen. Seriously, it's like they've cracked the code for simplifying multi-agent AI systems without sacrificing any of the power. How did they pull that off?
No magic involved, just some very clever engineering. By focusing on those core principles and keeping the design clean and clear, they've managed to pack a real punch into a pretty small package. And there's another key aspect here. Swarm doesn't just orchestrate all these interactions, it also gives developers tools to thoroughly test the AI agents. That way they can be sure everything's accurate and prevent any of those oops moments we sometimes see with AI.
That's definitely reassuring, especially if these AI agents are going to be handling important stuff. And speaking of handling things, one quote from the source material really jumped out at me. AI can perform 80% of the work in 80% of all jobs. And they're saying that'll happen in the next 25 years. That's a pretty bold prediction. It makes you wonder, what will the future of work even look like?
It definitely points to a huge shift in the workforce. I mean, if AI can really handle that much work across so many different jobs, it stands to reason that humans would take on more, supervisory roles, focus on things like strategy, making decisions, and managing those AI teams.
So it's not about AI replacing us entirely, but more like becoming this super skilled assistant. They handle the heavy lifting, while we humans get to focus on the big picture stuff. I can already see it now. Me, sipping my coffee, giving strategic directions to my team of AI agents. All right, team, let's crush those sales goals. Agent Alpha, Analyze the latest market trends, agent beta, come up with a killer marketing campaign.
I wouldn't be surprised if that became a reality sooner than we think. Swarm or similar systems could become like the backbone of this whole new way of working, where humans and AI work together as a team.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think about the bigger picture, right? Like, what happens to the people whose jobs are mainly task-based? How do we get our education and training systems ready for this AI-driven future? And what about the ethical stuff? We got to make sure these AI systems are developed and used responsibly, don't we?
Absolutely. Those are all critical questions we need to figure out as this technology keeps developing. It's not just about what the tech can do, it's about understanding how it impacts society and making sure we transition into this new way of working smoothly.
Okay, so we've got the basics of Swarm down. We know how it works, and we've even taken a peek into the future of work. But let's get practical here. What are some real-world applications of Swarm? Besides that airline chatbot example, is it actually being used out there in the world right now?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Swarm's already being used in a bunch of industries, even though it's still pretty early days. For example, some companies are using it to automate their customer service processes. So instead of navigating through that horrible phone tree or waiting on hold forever, you get your issue resolved quickly, efficiently, by the right AI agent. It's a win for businesses and customers alike.
Okay, so no more customer service nightmares. What other areas are ripe for Swarm's deployment? Where else could this be a game changer?
Healthcare is a great example. Imagine AI agents helping doctors with diagnoses, analyzing medical images, managing all the patient records, even personalizing treatment plans. This could lead to faster treatment, more accurate diagnoses, and better outcomes for patients. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. It's like having a whole team of medical experts at your beck and call, all working tirelessly to make sure you're getting the best possible care. Like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually happening now. Are there any other sectors where Swarm's making a splash?
E-commerce is another big one. Think about it. A whole network of AI agents working behind the scenes to give you a seamless, personalized shopping experience. One agent might recommend products based on what you've bought before or what you've been browsing. Another could handle inventory, making sure the stuff you want is actually in stock. And then another one could handle all the customer service questions, giving you instant support.
It's like having your own personal shopping assistant, inventory manager, and customer service rep all rolled into one. And they're working around the clock to make sure you're happy. Talk about taking retail therapy to a whole new level.
And the best part, because Swarm is open source, developers can tailor these AI agents to fit the specific needs of their industry. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
It's like handing developers a box of Legos and saying, go nuts, build whatever amazing AI creation you can dream up. I can totally see why Swarm is causing such a stir.
And we're just scratching the surface here. As developers keep experimenting and building on Swarm, we can expect to see even more creative and impactful applications popping up in the coming years.
It's almost like we're watching a new species being born, a species of AI agents working right alongside us, amplifying our abilities, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. It's thrilling and, yeah, maybe a little bit unsettling too.
It definitely is. But as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. As we keep moving deeper into this AI-powered future, we've got to have those honest, open discussions about the ethical implications. About the potential risks and the steps we need to take to make sure these technologies are used for good. At the end of the day, we're the ones shaping this future. It's our job to make it a future worth living in.
Well said. It's like we're setting off on this amazing adventure into uncharted territory. We've got to be aware of the potential pitfalls and make sure we're navigating them responsibly.
That's it, exactly. It's all about finding that balance between embracing the incredible power of AI and making sure it ultimately serves humanity's best interests.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground so far. We've talked about the nuts and bolts of Swarm, how it can transform all these different industries, and even how it could change the very fabric of our society. But there's this one question that keeps nagging at me. How is Swarm different from other AI approaches? Is it really revolutionary, or is it just another step in the evolution of AI tech?
That's a great question, and it's one that deserves a closer look. Swarm definitely builds on existing ideas in multi-agent systems, but it does have some unique features that make it stand out.
Okay, I'm all ears. What makes Swarm so special? What sets it apart from the crowd?
Well, first of all, its simplicity and accessibility are game changers. OpenAI has found a way to take the complexity of managing these multi-agent systems and condense it into this incredibly intuitive framework. This opens up the world of sophisticated AI development to a much wider audience. It's not just for the AI elite anymore.
So it's like they're democratizing access to these powerful AI tools. That's a pretty big deal in itself.
It really is. And the second thing is Swarm's open source nature. That really encourages collaboration and innovation. By making the code freely available, OpenAI is encouraging developers to explore, experiment, and build upon the framework. It's like they're speeding up the pace of development.
It's like they've thrown this giant AI party and invited everyone to come and share their ideas and expertise. I can only imagine the amazing things that will come out of that. So what else makes Swarm different?
Well, its focus on modularity and customization is another key thing that sets it apart. Swarm lets developers build these specialized AI agents that can be easily plugged into different applications and contexts. It's like building with Legos. You can mix and match different agents to create these custom AI solutions for specific tasks.
Now I see why people are so excited about it. It's like having this toolbox full of specialized AI tools, and you can just assemble and reassemble them as needed. It's a whole different world from those big monolithic AI systems of the past.
Exactly. And lastly, Swarm's focus on testing and validation is super important, especially when we're talking about AI systems being integrated into these really critical processes.
Right. We definitely don't want any rogue AIs running around causing havoc.
Being able to rigorously test and refine those agents is crucial. It helps ensure they're accurate and helps prevent unintended consequences.
Okay, so Swarm is simple, accessible, collaborative, modular, and testable. That's quite the list of accolades. But let's zoom out for a moment and think about the bigger picture. What are the wider implications of this technology? How could it reshape our world in the years to come?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's still early, but the potential impact of Swarm and technologies like it is huge. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we interact with technology, how we work, even how we live our lives.
It's like we're standing on the edge of a whole new technological era, looking out at a future that's both exhilarating and a little bit daunting. Where do you see this all leading?
Well, I can see a future where AI agents become just a normal part of our everyday lives, seamlessly integrated into our homes, our workplaces, even our cities. They'll help us with all the mundane stuff, provide personalized services, and even help us solve those really complex problems.
It's like having a whole team of invisible butlers, assistants, and advisors all working behind the scenes to make our lives easier, more efficient, and more fulfilling.
Exactly. And as these AI agents get more sophisticated and interconnected, they'll form this vast, intelligent network. A network that can tackle challenges that are way beyond what we can handle right now.
It's almost like creating a global AI brain, a brain that can solve things like climate change, cure diseases, maybe even usher in a new era of peace and prosperity. Now that's a future worth getting excited about.
It definitely is. But we can't forget that this future isn't set in stone. It's a future we're actively creating with every decision we make, every line of code we write, every conversation we have about what role we want AI to play in our society.
Well said. It's not just about the tech itself. It's about how we use it, the values we build into it, and the future we want to see. That responsibility rests on all of our shoulders.
And that's what makes this such an exciting and important time to be alive. We're not just watching from the sidelines, we're actively shaping the future of AI, and in turn, the future of humanity.
It's like we're all artists, each holding a paintbrush. And with every choice we make, we're adding to this giant canvas of the future. The final picture is entirely up to us. But hey, before we get too lost in these grand visions of what could be, let's come back down to earth for a moment. We've talked a lot about what Swarm can do, but what about the practical challenges and limitations? What are the hurdles we need to overcome to make this AI-powered future a reality?
That's a really important point. The potential of Swarm is huge, but there are definitely challenges we need to address. One of the biggest ones is data. AI agents are only as good as the data they learn from. So if the data is biased, incomplete, or just plain wrong, those flaws are going to get passed on to the AI agents.
Right, it's like trying to bake a cake with ingredients that have gone bad.
Yeah.
You're not going to end up with something you want to eat.
Exactly. If we want to build AI agents that are trustworthy and reliable, we need to make sure we're feeding them high-quality, unbiased data.
So it's not just about building the algorithms, it's about building those robust data pipelines. And we have to address the ethical questions around data collection and use.
Absolutely. And another challenge is the complexity of managing and coordinating these large teams of AI agents. As these systems get more sophisticated and bigger, making sure they can communicate, coordinate, and handle errors gets increasingly difficult.
It's like trying to conduct an orchestra with hundreds of musicians, each playing their own instrument. Keeping everyone in sync and making sure it all sounds good is a massive job.
Exactly. Developing the right algorithms and architectures to manage these complex AI ecosystems is a huge undertaking.
And we can't forget about security either. As AI agents become more integrated into our lives and handle more sensitive information, keeping them secure and protected from attacks is absolutely crucial.
You're right, cybersecurity is a major concern. We need strong safeguards in place to prevent these AI systems from being compromised.
Okay, so while the future of AI is full of promise, there are some real challenges ahead. It's like we're embarking on this exciting but demanding expedition. We need the right tools, the right expertise, and the right mindset to successfully navigate this new terrain.
I like that analogy. It's a journey that requires collaboration, innovation, and a constant willingness to learn and adapt.
All right, so we've covered a ton of ground in this episode. From the technical details of Swarm to its potential impact on different industries, we even touched on the ethical and societal implications of this game-changing technology. But there's one question that's been on my mind this whole time. We've talked about how Swarm could change the way we work, how we interact with the internet, even how AI is developed. But with all these potential benefits, was there anything about Swarm that surprised you? Anything that made you raise an eyebrow?
Honestly, what surprised me the most was OpenAI's decision to make Swarm open source. It's a big shift from how they've done things in the past. It almost feels like a change in their philosophy, like they're embracing more transparency and wanting the community to be more involved in AI development.
Yeah, it's not every day a company known for keeping things close to the vest suddenly decides to open the doors like this. It's like they're saying, we think this technology is too important to keep it all to ourselves. Let's all work together to make it the best it can be.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important step in building trust and making sure AI is developed responsibly. By letting the community look at the code, identify potential biases, and contribute to making it better, we can all play a role in making sure these technologies are developed and used ethically.
It's like crowdsourcing the ethics of AI, tapping into the collective wisdom and diverse perspectives of the global community. Pretty powerful stuff. Now, let's zoom out for a second and think about the long-term implications of all this. Swarm, AI agents, where is this all heading? Are we on the road to a utopia where AI solves all our problems? Or are we heading towards some dystopian nightmare where robots rule the world?
I think the reality is going to be somewhere in between those two extremes. AI has the potential to do a lot of good. It could help us tackle some of the biggest challenges we face, like climate change, healthcare, and poverty. But there are risks too, and we can't ignore those.
So it's not a simple black and white situation. It's more like this complex mix of good and bad possibilities.
Exactly. It's our responsibility as a society to make sure AI is developed and used in a way that maximizes the benefits and minimizes the risks. And that's a conversation we need to be having right now before it's too late.
You're right. We can't just sit back and let things happen. We need to be actively shaping the future. But how do we do that? What steps can we take to make sure AI is used for good?
Well, for one, education is key. We need to prepare future generations for this AI-powered world by giving them the knowledge and skills they need to understand and navigate it. We need to encourage critical thinking, ethical reasoning, and a deep understanding of how these technologies will impact society.
So it's not just about teaching them how to code. It's about teaching them to think critically about the implications of the code they write.
Exactly. We also need strong regulations to ensure that AI is developed and used responsibly. We need clear guidelines for things like data privacy, bias mitigation, and accountability to prevent misuse and unintended consequences.
It's like setting up guardrails for AI, making sure it stays on the right track and doesn't go off course.
Exactly. And finally, we need open and honest communication between researchers, policymakers, industry leaders, and the public. We have to bridge the gap between the tech experts and the people whose lives will be directly affected by these technologies.
It's about democratizing the conversation around AI. Everyone needs a seat at the table, so we can make sure the future we're creating is a future that benefits everyone. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We explored the ins and outs of OpenAI's Swarm, talked about how it could transform different industries, and even dove into the ethical and societal implications of this revolutionary technology.
It's been a fascinating conversation, thinking about how AI could reshape our world.
And as we wrap up this episode, I'm left feeling both excited and cautious. Excited by the incredible potential of AI, and cautious about the responsibility that comes with having such a powerful tool at our disposal.
I agree. The future is full of both promise and uncertainty, and it's our responsibility to navigate it wisely.
To all our listeners out there, we encourage you to stay curious, stay informed, and get involved in the discussions that are shaping the future of AI. The future isn't something that just happens to us, it's something we create together. And that's a wrap for today's show. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into OpenAI's Swarm. We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little mind-blowing. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all the sources we mentioned and some additional resources if you want to go even deeper down the rabbit hole. Until next time, keep those curiosities flowing and stay tuned for more explorations into the ever-evolving world of tech and innovation.